What's happening now? It's your favorite fat man, Big TJ, bringing you another episode of my NFL Diary. You can follow me on Twitter at BigTJ2020. My NFL Diary is brought to you by Go Podcast and the 3-Point Conversion. So, this diary of mine is going to be subtitled, Get Off the Tit and Smell That Shit. Why? Because I think a lot of people are putting a lot of stock in the wrong teams too early. Three teams I need to let y'all know about. It's got people just a little bit too geeked, too excited, too fast. So the first team I'm going to talk about is the Green Bay Packers. I let y'all know y'all need to shut the door on them a couple weeks ago. Some guy named Aaron Rodgers, who does commercials for a living, came out and said, relax. And now all of a sudden, after winning 2 games, people have forgotten how they started off. So, let me let you know. The Green Bay Packers are 4-2 and split number 1 in that division with the Detroit Lions. So, because they're 4-2, I should think they're serious, right? Right. If I watch ESPN and listen to Tommy Jackson, Keyshawn Johnson, and Chris Carter, I should believe that they have what it takes to win a Super Bowl, right? Right. Because they're 4-2, right? And they've got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Let's look at those 4 wins, shall we? One of those wins came over the Jets. The other win came over the Vikings. They beat the Bears and the Dolphins. Okay, right? They're NFL teams, right? Those 4 teams, those 4 wins have a combined record of 8-15. Jets are 1-5. Vikings are 2-4. The only 300 team that they've beaten was the Bears at 3-3. So I'm supposed to be excited about the Packers because they beat a combined record of 8-15? No, I'm sorry. I can't do it. I really can't do it. Aaron Rodgers is a nice quarterback. He's fluid and I like him, but the management still in shambles. And as much as I like Eddie Lacy, the running back game doesn't seem to be as consistent as it's supposed to be. So, yeah. Not sold on the Packers. I'm off the tit and I'm smelling the shit. Until somebody can fan it away, get some pray potpourri up in this piece, I'm still smelling that poo-poo. Let's move on, shall we? Let's move on to the reigning Super Bowl champions. Ah, yeah. Y'all didn't know I was going to talk about Seattle, right? And no, it's not just because they lost to Dallas, even though that doesn't help. Seattle Seahawks, after winning last year's Super Bowl, are 3-2. They beat the Packers, whom I just talked about. They beat the Broncos, and they beat the Redskins. Now, they beat the Packers. Packers are 4-2. So because they beat a 4-2 team, I should be excited, right? Right. But I've already told you how I feel about that 4-2 record of the Packers. So Seattle beating them, not too geeked up about. They beat the Broncos. The Broncos are 4-1. Don't have too much to say about Denver except for we'll see what they do in the playoffs. The other team they beat is the Washington Redskins. Washington Redskins are 1-5. Enough said. So the combined record of the teams that Seattle has beat is 9-8. Not bad, right? I mean, they have a winning record, 9-8, but 4 of those wins belong to the Packers, and they beat the Jets, Vikings, Bears, and Dolphins. 4 of those wins belong to the Broncos, and 1 of those wins belongs to the Redskins. Get out of town. The Redskins, the 1 game that they won was against Jacksonville. That's shenanigans. So, Seattle, 3-2. I'm off the tit. I smell it for what it is. Marshawn Lynch is that dude. He was going to hold out, and I thought that he was going to get paid. Instead, he says, you know what, let me just back off. I'll come to training camp. They did something with his money, nothing major, but he is still beast mode. Russell Wilson gets a lot of praise for being that guy. I show love to him because he won a Super Bowl, but there are a lot of other quarterbacks that have won Super Bowl on their belt. I don't necessarily get too crazed about the guy though, because, I mean, let's think about it for a second. He hands the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. When he's not handing the ball off, he's running a play action, which enables him to get some separation for his receivers or roll out. His career high is 122 rushing yards in the game, which he got this season. He's not a guy who runs first. He's a guy whose passing's pretty smart. Pretty smart guys that get to depend on the run and play off the play action, I like to call game managers. But if you call Russell Wilson a game manager, you're liable to get your tires slashed. So I'm not going to say that out loud, even though Russell Wilson is a game manager. The last team that I would like to discuss with you today on my NFL diary, emphasis on my NFL diary, is Dallas. Dallas is 5-1. Got a lot of people excited. The beginning of the season, people said that Dallas' defense was going to be trash, and for them to finish 8-8 like they have for an eternity is going to be a stretch. Sean Lee goes down, DeMarcus Ware's gone, leadership's out, Tony Romo's still complaining about his back, and we don't know what to expect from DeMarco Murray. Fast forward 6 weeks, DeMarco Murray is an alleged MVP candidate, even though we know another running back is not going to win for quite some time. Tony Romo isn't necessarily lighting up the league, but he is still playing some pretty good ball, and that defense isn't as horrible as we thought they were. Or are they? They're 5-1. 5-1. Those 5 wins come against the Titans, the Rams, the Saints, the Texans, and Seattle, whom I just mentioned as being 3-2, and one of those wins coming against the Packers, who I talked about at 4-2, whose wins come against the Jets, Vikings, Bears, and Dolphins. So, the combined record of the 5 teams that Dallas has beaten, 11-16. The only team that Dallas has beaten that is at least 500 or better is the Texans at 3-3. Titans are 2-4, Rams are 1-4, Saints are 2-3, Texans are 3-3, and Seattle 3-2, which I again talked about those three wins just a second ago. So when I look at Dallas, I'm like, the one game that they lost was to San Francisco. I don't really have a lot of love for San Francisco nor their quarterback, but that's a whole nother diary, baby. I'm just talking about Dallas. When I look at Dallas's 5 wins, and everybody's saying that how Dallas does against Seattle is supposed to be a gauge for how good they really are, why? What has Seattle done to show us that they are the barometer or the pinnacle for what this season is supposed to be about in the NFL? Yes, they are the reigning champion, but we've seen champions in the NFL not make the playoffs the preceding year. Check the Patriots after they won their first Super Bowl with Tom Brady. They didn't even make the playoffs the following season. So I'm saying, why is it that Seattle gets to be the standard? Well, if you look at the first game they played against the Packers, they made Aaron Rodgers absolutely look horrible. But they've had some games where they looked to be completely dismantled, like against the Chargers. The Chargers made Seattle look pretty bad. What I'm saying is, ultimately, is that some of these numbers can be used to make a team look better than they really are. When you hear Tony Romo's 5-1 this season, you think that maybe he's doing pretty good. When you hear Jerry Jones' team, the Dallas Cowboys, is 5-1, you're like, oh, they might be all right this season. They might have what it takes to make that next leap to the next level. Do you really think so, though? Really? Really? No, not yet. Because it's not sustainable. And everybody's asking the question, is now the time for us to believe in Dallas? Is now the time? The reason that they ask that question is because nobody truly wants to believe in Dallas. Truly. Because they can look at the wins and say, you know what? I don't care if you're 5-1. You beat the Titans. You beat the Rams. You beat the Texans. You beat the Saints. The Saints have shown us this year that Super Bowls aren't won on paper. Regardless of who your quarterback is, you still got to go out there and handle business. And Darren Sproles is very important to a team down south, right? Right. So when I say get off the tit, I mean exactly that. Packers, Seattle, and Dallas folks, if you're fans, I expect you to stay on that tit. Stay on that tit like it's drinking, like it's feeding you fruit punch. Stay on that tit like it's got the cure to every disease in the world coming out of it. Straight up. Stay on that tit. But to all the other analysts and all the other fair-weather fans or sports folks on podcasts like myself that are using the Packers, Seattle, and Dallas as some kind of indication on anything, calm down. Do your job. Don't be lazy. Don't just say, oh, Dallas is 5-1. They might have a chance to win the NFC East. Don't just say that because it's convenient. Yes, they are tied for number 1 in the division. Nope, they're number 2 because the Eagles have won 2 division games and Dallas has only won 1. Nonetheless, I apologize. As a matter of fact, Dallas hasn't even played in division yet. I'm sorry. My bad. Had to take a deep breath on that one, man. Because I was on the radio this morning, people talking about the Giants. Was on the radio last weekend. I mean, I hear so many talking heads where people are saying, you know, who's this and who's that, who's good and who's not. For one, the season is still early. Dallas could very well still make the playoffs, and I'm not going to hate if they do. Based on the way that they're playing right now, if they can continue at this pace, they will either win the division or the wild card. I wouldn't be upset. They deserve it. I'd like to see Tony Romo get some success because there are a lot of haters out there. But am I going to go ahead and crown him the comeback player of the year because the team is 5-1? No. The reason Tony Romo and the Dallas Cowboys look better this year is because of DeMarco Murray. The Dallas Cowboys have not had a running game that they can depend on since Emmitt Smith left. And I'm not talking about the end Emmitt Smith. I'm talking about Emmitt Smith when Troy was there. Because Emmitt Smith at the end, he was just chasing a racket. So DeMarco Murray is absolutely going beast mode right now. And because Dallas can depend on that running game, means Tony Romo is not being asked to make clutch decisions, if you will, because we know he cannot necessarily make good decisions in the clutch. Not saying he's trash, just saying that when the pressure's on and he makes a mistake, it looks worse. You go through a game, you throw 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, that's not bad. But when that interception is on a game-winning drive, it makes people say, that's Romo being Romo. Nothing bad to say about Dallas. All I'm saying is get off the tit, smell the shit. Until y'all are 10 wins in, I got nothing else to say about any one of these 3 teams. Seriously. They can get 8 wins in the next 4 weeks. Well, for the Packers. Seattle can get 8 wins. Dallas can get 8 wins. But until they get 10, I got nothing to say about them. Because they're all in the NFC. In the NFC, you got to be strong to represent the NFC crown. If they were in the AFC, I wouldn't even be talking about them. Because a 5-1 record in the AFC is real strong, considering how weak the AFC is. And if you're a fan of a team in the AFC, congratulations, I'm talking to you. So, this has been my NFL Diary. I'm your favorite fat man, Big TJ, always being round and beautiful. Shouts out to the crew, Ralph Haynes, a.k.a. Mr. Controversy, Lamar Broadus, a.k.a. the Sportologist, all the fam at Go, all the fam at TSCRN, Mo Jays, holla at your boy. We'll talk. Peace.